Hello, my friends, and welcome to MSP Unplugged's Tech Talk Tuesday. I'm your host, Rick Smith. This is the place to learn how to run your IT service business, whether you're a one person shop or leading a team for the journey. This is the place for you. Now, this episode of MSP Unplugged is sponsored by MoveBot. MoveBot is the simplest, fastest data migration and moving tool there is, supporting over 30 storage and email platforms today. We'll learn a little bit more about MoveBot later on in the show. Now, for some quick announcements, as I'm sure you've probably already heard through the newsletter or on our Facebook page or um, on our LinkedIn page, or somehow I'm sure the word has gotten to you. TechCon Unplugged 2024 is officially on the calendar. Now, we're going to be in the greater Washington, D.C. area September 12th to the 14th at the hotel at Arundel Preserve. Excuse me. Join us for this amazing event as we bring the IT community together across 2.5 days of content to help you better your business to save money, save time, and improve your services. Now, this event is for emerging MSPs as well as more established houses. Early bird tickets are on sale now at techconunplugged.com. I look forward to seeing you there. As we get into today's show, as we start off the year here, I feel it's important to have a roadmap of where we plan on going in the year in your business. Last year toward the fourth quarter, Paco and I talked about fourth quarter living and, how we were working towards ending the year off, things we were doing to wrap up the year and prepare for this year. Now, one of the things we did that I had to take a hard look at, we had to, acknowledge and analyze what went right for the year. And also, more importantly, figure out what didn't go right and what we could have done better to improve it. So, and talking to the team and looking at the numbers and looking at, conversations we've had with clients, we realized, there were a couple of things we could have done better. And you know, um, I talk about this all the time, and it's something I preach to the team. I preach all the time, but I realize that I have to do more of it too, and that's just being efficient. Our efficiencies, they're killing us a little bit, and that is, what really is going to distinguish you in your business when clients think, that when they're determining whether you're a good fit for them or not a good fit for them. It's how you make things work for them in their business. We advertise as a company, Renactus Technology. We say we simplify IT for the modern business owner, right? Now, that is our goal, and that's what we hope to do. We want to simplify the IT for the customer so they don't have to go through all the hoops to get things to work right and to figure out, how to do things. But with that comes the responsibility of you yourself being efficient to simplify their systems as well as your own. Now, we talked about this, and one of the things I got from one of the texts is, hey, we just have too many things, too many tools, too many irons in the fire, and we're kind of stretched a little thin. So, I got two ways to approach this, right? I said, okay, do we need to hire more people? And the answer was no. It's just that two things came out of that conversation, and I'm just gonna go with them. I'm not afraid to say it. One, we need to get things down a little bit more, cut things down, be a little more succinct about what we're doing and what we're approaching. And two, you have to give better direction. And when they say you have to give better direction, that's me. Now, I have a vision of what I want my MSP to be. And I look at that, and I have these grandiose plans, but what's happening is the long run plans are being overshadowed by the short, excuse me, I'm saying that backwards. The short term plans are being overshadowed by the long term plans. And what I mean by that is where I want to be now, there are steps to get there. And I am sometimes cutting the steps or expecting the rest of everyone else to have my vision and know where we want to go. So I assume a lot. So basically, they don't get proper direction and we don't focus in on what we're doing. So, I titled this episode here, It Starts With You. Now, if you're running an MSP, whether you're, a solo tech, or what we call a nimble MSP, or you have employees, you still set the culture for your business, right? You set the tone for how the business runs. And efficiencies are extremely important to getting, things running right, to having happy clients, having happy employees, having a successful business. Now, I've talked about this a couple of times. Paco and I've talked about efficiencies and getting things right, but I'm really taking a deep dive into what we're doing and what's not working, but why is it not working? And one of the things is I've been working on documentation since the dawn of time, the dawn of Renactus, really, right? And we've made some great strides over the year. Like, one of the things that I talked about that really helps is we are now recording a lot of steps, a lot of simple things that we do. We jump on Loom and we just make a simple recording and we drop that in the documentation. This is how you do this. So it's a visualization more so than just a written document, right? And that has helped because I am visual, and as we bring in techs who are younger, who don't necessarily know all the steps or know all the lingo or the jargon, it's easier for them to work from a video portion of this, to showing them the steps that we do, than it is necessarily in writing. So that is I think one of the positive steps we've been doing. But what we've realized is we're so backed up with it. We have, the direction I gave initially was, hey, when you come up with when you figure something out, or there's a process that you think we're going to repeat a lot, go ahead and record it, put it on the Loom, and then put it in the documentation so we can have a record of it. That's easy to say, but when you're trying to, handle 10 tickets, 20 tickets, 30 tickets, 40 tickets, however many tickets you got, you discover a problem, you don't necessarily have time to get back at that point to go ahead and record that video, right? So you put in a note. And I'm guilty of this as well because I work the help desk as well. So, I'm guilty of this as well. I'll say something, I'll say, hey, I want to record that. I'll make a note somewhere, and then usually on my scratch pads that sits next to me on my desk, and I'll say, hey, let me I'll get back to that later. Now when you go through the day, you got all of the things you got to do, you answer tickets, do billing or whatever, talk to clients, whatever you got to do, you don't think about that list anymore. And then I look over and I got a list of 20 recordings I got to make, or 20 different things I got to document. And then half of them I didn't bookmark what the solution was. So now I got to go back again, figure that out, and get it done. So that is one of the inefficiencies that we have. And it's not fair. I'm putting that on everyone to do, which is not fair. So one of the solutions we came up with was we're going to hire a part-time person, and that's just going to be their job. They're really going to work. They're going to be responsible really just for the documentation part of things. Now we'll expand that as the work slows and give them more responsibility. But the whole point of this is for us to be efficient, we need to have the processes in order. And it takes so much more time when a problem comes up or a situation comes up and I'm have to look, hey, where did I write that down at? Where did I Google that at? Or where did I save it on the computer at? Um, and then I'm wasting 10, 15, 20, 30 minutes looking for this solution, you know, when I could have just had it someplace where it should have been and I can go to it. But again, with time, with commitments, you don't necessarily always have the time to get that done. So one of the things I'm doing is, we're gonna bite the bullet, hire someone, and that's just gonna be their job. Now, again, I say it starts with you or it starts with me because I have to set the tone. And I cannot continue to complain or voice, discomfort or discern with these things happening and I'm not following them as well, right? I'm not leading by example. And realizing that it's a lot. It's hard on Michael to do that, um, to handle all the tickets and then turn around and record stuff that he may have, you know, figured out earlier in the day. Now it's 4 o'clock and I'm saying, hey, go on Loom now and record, these 10 things you did today or whatever. The list is not never necessarily 10 all the time or things like, but it piles up and the work piles up on you. So, we are really working on trying to get that right. The other thing we are working on too is our onboarding. We're trying to get that a lot smoother. We're working on introducing we have a process, but we're working on expanding that process, but at the same time condensing it. And it's going to be, I guess the best way to say it is more steps, but less cumbersome on the inside on what needs to be done. And you don't move on to the next step until the first step is done. So one of the things we're going to do is, we're just telling clients, hey, it's going to take a little, depending on the size of the client, it's going to take X amount of days to, get X amount of weeks to get on board. We try to tell everybody now, you know, the first month we do business is that whole onboarding process, right? That first month, once we start, that whole month is the onboarding process. The goal is to finish that in 2 weeks, get everything documented down, um, and know where we're going. The goal is to get that done in about 2 weeks or so. But we tell a client it's a month. That way we can always, if they're still trying to figure something out, or we're still trying to figure something out, and they come to us, we say, hey, that's the next step, or two steps down. We'll have an answer for you on that, if it comes to that. But those are just some serious things we've had to just just consider and make changes on, because again, it is, it could really be the death of the business if you're not efficient. There's a couple other things we've noticed. It seems like there's this long list of things we're doing wrong, but we did have some things we did right. Revenue was up, which was great. Business was better, which was great. Didn't lose any clients, which was great. Actually, one who had left prior came back. So, those things are positives, and we want to celebrate the wins, but we also always want to make sure that we take care of we address the losses, or we address the issues that hurt us, so that we can make sure that going forward we're prepared, we're ready. And so we are making some changes in house to address that. And as like I say, I tell anyone that I had to really sit down and look at where I'm at, look at some of the mistakes I was making, or some of the things I was neglecting, that was not only hurting my team, but in turn hurting the business. And giving better direction is I don't make New Year's resolutions. I just, when we have a meeting or when I learn something new, I set a goal, right? So that goal starts from that day. So whatever day that goal comes up, that's when it is. I'm not going to wait for the new year to try to start to attain that goal. I'm going to set it from that day forth, and we're going to go with it. So we have some things in that, as we continue to evaluate the business, we'll make more changes. We'll implement some other things to make sure that they go right. Now, I sit here. I've been in this business a long time on both ends of it, and you've all heard me say this probably on more than one occasion. I'm a much better tech than I am a business owner, right? I prefer, if I had my choice, I'd sit behind the computer all day and answer tickets. And, that's what I enjoy, or getting out. But, I am the face of the business as well. So I do have a responsibility to get out, to meet clients, to bring in new business, to represent the company, where whenever, if it's some kind of community event, things like that. My picture's on the website, that's who they see, that's who they know. So when the phone rings, or or I have to go out, somebody has to go out in the field, 9 times out of 10, when I go, people, they recognize me, they see me, and it puts them a little bit more at ease, right? So I'm trying to force myself out of my comfort zone and do more of the selling, do more of the more of the face, the community work, things like that. Um, and stop hiding behind the desk and behind the tickets. But with that, let's take a quick message from our sponsor, MoveBot.
Data migrations are complex and irritating, creating days of frustrations from setup to cutover. MoveBot was built from the ground up to fix that. MoveBot is the simplest and fastest data moving tool there is, fully hosted with no infrastructure, no virtual machines, none of that. Sign up, connect, scan, and you'll be moving data in minutes. Techs of all levels can now move terabytes per day with MoveBot. The magic lies in how MoveBot simplifies and autoscales your migration with modern cloud technology, handling proprietary doc types, file name sanitation, permissions, and cutover, with detailed reporting and alerting at every step. Start moving data like a pro at movebot.io, and definitely check out the link in our show notes as well.
All right, thank you, MoveBot. Um, Now, in going with what we were just talking about, and me taking some evaluation of myself, and things started with me. I've had to implement a few changes on a personal scale. I've had a couple of challenges. Um, and I'll just I got nothing to hide here. I just had a couple of challenges that I think really affected me, um and in turn affected the business. So one of the things I am trying to make sure now is that I keep myself. It's hard, but I'm trying to keep myself in the two different spaces, right? I have a personal life, family, kids, and then I have a business that I have to run. That I have employees that depend on me, and I have clients who I'm responsible to. So those two things have to separate. And again, like I say, I hear this from Juan a couple of times, and I hope Juan Fernandez, and I hope I don't screw up the quote. But when you're evaluating something, when all problems lead back to Rick, then Rick is the problem. And these are the things that I've learned in the business, when we're falling short on some things, and falling short on some goals, or falling short on some initiatives. It's usually the problem. I'm usually the bottleneck. Somewhere in there, I'm the bottleneck. Whether I didn't give right direction, or I had a piece in this that I didn't do, and it slowed everyone else's portion down, or, and I'll be honest with you, or I just forgot, and it just, things got a little caught up. So, I am, one of the things, again, like I don't do New Year's resolutions, but I am taking a much bigger role, a much bigger effort into my own personal development, my own personal growth. Um, I'm just, sometimes with so many things to do, I run two businesses with Renactus and with MSP Unplugged here. There's a lot on my plate. Besides that, got family obligations. We got, just, home obligations, everything that needs to be done. But everything has to have its place, right? And this is the life I chose. I wouldn't give it up for anything. I love doing what I do, but at some point, sometimes things can get a little, basically, out of control, and things can start slipping through the cracks. So my personal goal, my personal mission this year is to be a better me. Now, a better me will make me better mentally, financially with the company, and physically as well. Now, I've been, some of you have seen me, and you see my picture on the on the front of the advertisement for TechCon. You see, got a little gut here, a little belly here. I'm getting a little big. I'm a big guy, and I'm working on that. I've made some decisions this year, and this is not to get all mushy and everything, but I think it all ties together. The health, your mental health, your physical health, your financial health, all those things tie together, because they you work, each one feeds into the next. It's like a triangle or a circle. They just feed into each other. So, it's my personal mission this year to focus on those things, to focus on, you know getting healthier, so I'm eating better. I'm up every morning at 5:30 now in the gym. And we'll see how long that lasts, but we'll talk about this in November or at TechCon in September. I'll tell you I'm still going to the gym, because that is my mission this year, and I'm not going to fail it. And as far as the business goes, I'm doing two things. I'm going to, as I said, as I told you, we're going to hire someone to help us with the the documentation side of this, but I'm also going to seek some help and get a formal business coach, get someone who can help me be more boss like is not the right word, but to help me be more efficient as a business owner, as an employer, as a boss, as a supervisor, whatever word it is, and just to help me put those things in perspective and give me some, you know, high level look down, because it's easy when you're in charge, you got nobody over you telling you what's wrong, right? So you see it as you tell the people below you, or I hate that's a bad term, but you tell your employees or whoever works for you or working with you, you give direction, but no one's giving you direction. So you necessarily don't see the blind spots. So, one of the things I'm doing, and I got this idea from Tom Bull. He talked about it a couple of years ago. And it's one of those things where someone says something to you, be like, okay. And finally, you say, "Hey, maybe I should get a business coach." And then in the back of my mind, like, where have I heard that before? So thank you, Tom Bull, if you're listening, for the suggestion, and I'm following through. Now, I do have a mentor, someone I can just talk to um, about this, but he even said you need to get someone that's going to take a more hands-on look approach at it, um, at your business, at your strategies, and at you as a leader to help you improve your business and to grow your business. So, for 2024, again, not a resolution, but our 2024 goal for Rick personally is to get it all together, get a little more shape, get a little more energy, get some true hard takes have someone help me and give a true hard look at my business and the inefficiencies, and help me to improve that. And hopefully with that, I can help my employees. They can be more efficient and they can be happier, and they're not, running around with like a chicken with their head cut off because their boss doesn't give great direction. So that is one of the things that is the major project for 2024. Now, I say all these from a first person perspective, but I think, again, no matter what size you are, you may want to look at some of these ideas and see. And I will, as the year progresses, I will talk about these things. I'll bring them up in future shows. Um, I'm even honestly thinking about talking about the whole process in a whole different scenario. Um, but that's for another time to talk about. But I will be giving updates on how we're progressing throughout the year, and I will always be open to suggestions from you folks out there. Like I say, you know, I've been in this business a long time, but I don't know everything. And what I know is that I don't know everything. So I am always open to suggestions. As like I say, I will keep you abreast on some of the changes we're making and the progress we're making. And hopefully it helps someone out there to they can implement one or two of these things, or take a piece of it and expand on it and make it work for them in their business or in their personal life or wherever it may be. Um, One other update I did want to give is one of the other things we are going to do this year is our marketing. We're going to be more heavy into marketing. Once we get this piece and we set a deadline of the end of the month, to get this onboarding process really knocked down and ready to go. So, and we're marketing now, but we're going to be marketing a lot more, doing a lot more heavy marketing, and we're going to change. Well, we have changed, excuse me, our client avatar. So we're focusing on larger businesses now. Um, We've basically just changed the number of minimum users. And the reason for that is this: when we look at where our inefficiencies lie, they mostly lie in smaller operations. And that is because we just spent more time, tick, more ticket time, or more on-site time on smaller organizations for some reason, whether it was we let things slide and didn't have them upgrade things they needed to do, or push things aside because we were working on other projects, or it's just the hassle of some of the smaller houses not wanting to this is not wanting to really take all the suggestions we were giving, and using all of the tools and all of the processes that we wanted to put in place there. And one of the mistakes we made, again, bad leadership on my part, was making some exceptions to things, right? And that shouldn't happen. So, what we found is when we looked at our client list, we looked at our client roster, we had 97% of everything we wanted to do implemented in those larger organizations, and closer to 70% in those smaller organizations. Now, it could be it's a combination of a few things, but the common denominator was size. So if we can work with larger organizations, which is in most cases turns into more revenue, less work, or less ticket time, we have that now extra time to really hone in and making sure those other 3% of things that we want to do are done, as opposed to figuring out how to get the other 40%, on the smaller organizations where we have to constantly fight all the time. Now, that doesn't mean that doesn't work in every scenario, and every smaller organization that we work with was at a 60%. That's not accurate. But what we found was that is where the break was. It was in size of the company and what we had implemented and where we were progressively. And so we are just going to make that change. So that's been official. And there's two ways to go about this with the small organizations. We're having those conversations now about, you need to be at this point. So we've created a checklist that they see, and that they have. And again, I'm going to delve back a little bit. Sometimes you don't have people where you want them to be is just because of poor communication, nothing else. They don't know. I talked to one company. I didn't know you wanted us to do this, and I've had this conversation with you on more than one occasion, and her response was, well, why didn't you just do it? And I laugh. I say, well, I don't want to just do it. You see another building trying to figure out what it is. And her response again was, hey, we trust you. We hired you to do the business. So just do it. So, there are those things too, where there's just been assumptions on our part, or bad communication on our part, where we didn't get the point across everything that needed to be done. So we're just going to have those conversations with everyone, right? Make sure everyone's on the same page. Give them a checklist. This is where you are, and this is where you need to be. And if you can't this is why. If we need to discuss why, I'll be glad to discuss why. But if you can't see your way there, then we more than likely cannot do business with you. And it's one of those. It is a kind of a take it or leave it. But again, as we discuss all the time on the show, and I'm sure you all know this, you get more headaches, more problems, and you get your butt in a sling when you cut corners or try to appease a customer to save a few bucks. But then the problem comes back, and you can't say, well, I told you to do this, I told you to do that, because they don't hear that. Then all they know is they got a problem. You were responsible for the IT, and you didn't get it done. So again, we just say, hey, let's protect ourselves. Let's be more efficient. And, let's make sure that all of our customers understand what is required of them, and they understand what is required of us. Um, and with that, I'll say this as before I sign off is make sure that your customers understand what you are responsible for and what you are not responsible for. Because we keep running into that. Well, I thought you do this, or I thought you were responsible, or I didn't know you did that. And this goes back to the conversation we talk about all the time. You show up one day and something new is there. So new phones are there, or a new printer shows up, and then all of a sudden, hey, can you put this printer in? Or, we've partnered with this company. They need you to give them server access so that they can put this and this and this on. Excuse me. And your question is, hey, why didn't you tell me this ahead of time? And we could have planned for this rather than now just being an emergency because company XYZ has a guy on the line now waiting to get in the server. This is something that needs to be communicated to us ahead of time. So again, our communication has to be better with our customers. Our expectations of our customers has to be better so that they understand what what our expectations of them are. And I am going to make it a rule, make it a strict rule. We are not doing emergency situations that we didn't create. And what I mean by that is if the server's down, if the system's down, hey, that's part of our responsibility. We will, of course, handle that as quick as possible. But a friend of mine used to always make this um, what an emergency in your part doesn't constitute a priority on my part, right? So if this is something that you created that you could have clearly you know spoke to us out about ahead of time and told us and let us know, then it's not an emergency to us because it wasn't important enough for you to tell us, right? So if that printer shows up and you want to print on it today, put in a ticket and we'll get to it when we can. When you do whatever and then you need us, but you knew about this 6 weeks ago, then we'll work on it. But it'll be I'm not gonna say at our convenience, but it won't be treated as an emergency because it wasn't important enough for you to tell us who is your partner in this. So this is some of the things we're trying to work on this year, and some of the things hopefully, excuse me, some of the things we're going to implement soon and will help to make us more efficient. So with that, I'll stop talking. I'm sure I've gone on long enough, but just to summarize, really, um we're just making some changes. I'm making some personal changes, trying to change some personal habits, some lifestyle changes that I know will translate into making me a better person, making me a better boss, making my employees more effective, more efficient, and making the business more efficient and more profitable. Because in the end, that's what we're really here for, right? We want to help our customers, but we also want to make money and take care of our family and our other obligations. So with that, I want to thank you. I invite you to tune in every Tuesday and Thursday. You can check out the video podcasts on youtube.com/MSP Unplugged. Do us a favor, like, subscribe, hit the notification button to be notified whenever a new episode's available. You can also take us on the go. We're on your favorite podcatcher apps. We're on Amazon Music, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. For Paco and I, we want to thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time on MSP Unplugged.